Looking at emotional abuse in relationships. Emotional abuse is a subtle kind of abuse that is not easily noticeable by others. It could also be called relationship abuse or intimate partner violence. And this intimate partner violence, we know that is quite common. It affects more than 10 million people per year in the US. And in the other continents, it is quite massive. So intimate partner violence may involve emotional or psychological aggression, physical or sexual violence, financial abuse, or stalking behaviors. What is the objective of this abuse? The abusive partner, in an attempt to control the other partner, decides to abuse. Before we proceed, let's look at the different types of abuses. We have physical abuse, which involves intentional bodily harm, such as slapping, punching, choking, kicking, pinching, and shoving. We have emotional abuse, it could also be called verbal abuse. It involves using cruel words or attitudes meant to control, demean, or punish in some way. For example, calling a partner worthless, stupid, fool, or giving the silent treatment. These are examples of emotional abuse. Research has shown that emotional abuse may be a factor in some mental illnesses. Then we have the psychological abuse, which is also a mental abuse, and involves the slowing down of a person's sense of self over time, and it makes the recipient to doubt their sanity. We have sexual abuse. This one involves any type of sexual assault, rape, or weaponizing of sex. Then we have financial abuse. This involves the other partner controlling the money so that the partner is unable to have or spend money without the other's permission. What motivates an abuser to abuse? Below, I will list some of the reasons why the abuser abuses. One of them is jealousy, when they are too jealous of your relationship with other people, when they have anger problems, when there is this feeling of inferiority complex. They feel that you are better than them, they are not good enough, so they want to control to show that at least there is something they are taking charge of. When there is incidents of poor self-esteem, somebody with a good self-esteem will not derive anything from controlling a person. But somebody with a poor self-esteem wants to show I'm in charge. So the controlling behavior becomes like a sort of validation for him that I have a self-esteem. There are, in some cultures, cultural beliefs that you have the right to control your partner. Then there is personality or mental health disorder, which also is one of the things that make people to abuse the other. Then learned behavior from growing up in an environment where abuse or violence is accepted. For example, seeing your parents abusing each other, or your father abusing your mom, or your mom abusing the father, or your mother being exposed to abuse and nothing is being done about it. You grow up thinking that this is how life is meant to be. This is how life ought to be lived. Or this is how a woman or a man ought to be treated. So this is a learned behavior. Then when the person is under the influence of alcohol or drug abuse. So abusive behaviors, what do? They tend to harm, intimidate, humiliate, control, threaten, manipulate, degrade, blame, harass and isolate partners from the others. How do you know that you are in an abusive relationship? You are in an abusive relationship if your partner blames you for how they feel or act. If your partner said that you'll be nothing without them. If your partner, he or she, is extremely jealous or possessive, he doesn't want to share you with any other person, you are in an abusive relationship. Check out, look out. You are in an abusive relationship if your partner say cruel things to you, or they call you names, derogatory names, making you to feel bad. You are in an abusive relationship when your partner doesn't want to see you happy, when he makes fun of your accomplishments, of things you have achieved. That is a sign of being in an abusive relationship. You're in an abusive relationship when your partner intimidates or threatens you to make them get what they want. You're in an abusive relationship if your partner embarrasses you in front of family and friends. You're in an abusive relationship when your partner only wants to be the one to control the money so that you always come back to beg it. So these are some of the ways of knowing that you are in an abusive relationship. So like I said before, we are going to focus on emotional abuse. What is this emotional abuse all about? It has been coming up more and more as each day passes. So what is it all about? Emotional abuse is a series of behaviors intended to control, manipulate, or confuse the victim. It is a kind of a psychological trauma inflicted to create a power imbalance in the relationship. It is a form of brainwashing that slowly erodes the victim's sense of self-worth, insecurity, and trust in themselves and others. And we have seen that people who have been abused may be abusive themselves. Early childhood experiences have shown that abuse can cause an association that expresses itself in adulthood. The cycle of abuse may be related to an attempt to heal from past trauma or to regain a sense of power or control. Abuse may affect a person's ability to feel empathy for others. This can lead to a feeling of superiority that makes it difficult for them to form healthy relationships in adults. And so people who have been abused may carry a lot of anger about what happened to them. And then this abuse becomes a way to express their anger. This anger usually comes out in subtle or not so subtle ways in intimate relationships. So people who experience abuse early in life may also have formed an avoidance of attachment style in childhood. This may cause them to avoid forming close relationships in adulthood, which can lead to behaviors such as pushing others away or responding to attempts at closeness with anger. People who have experienced abuse may struggle with feelings of insecurity that affect their ability to trust others. This can cause them to respond with avoidance or hostility. People who experience abuse as children may struggle with confusing association between love and hate. They may also experience problems with anger, trust, control, and insecurity. So the cycle of abuse causes people who were abused in childhood to either perpetrate abuse in adulthood or become involved in abusive relationship with others. So this thing we are talking about is more like a cycle. While growing up, you experienced abuse, or you were abused, or you witnessed abuse. And some of these, most times you see the cycle is not treated, the trauma is not dealt with. The person grew up with that hurt, with that anger, with that pain in their heart, and they carry it. And then when they enter into a relationship with another person, you see, little things leads to aggression, leads to assault, leads to them exhibiting behaviors they are not supposed to exhibit. Examples, there are so many examples. So this emotional abuse is a non-physical abuse. It targets the emotional and psychological well-being of the victim. It is often a precursor to physical abuse. Examples are verbal assault, yelling, emotional manipulation, shouting, screaming, threatening and pretending to harm the patient or the other person, intimidation, name-calling, insulting, and ridiculing the partner, talking to the other person as if he or she is a child, embarrassing the person in the presence of others, making the other person to feel guilty when they've not done anything wrong, withdrawing affection or being callous and mean to them, blaming the other person for things that is not their fault. So it is difficult to note. It is not easily seen. And this emotional abuse has a lot of negative effects on the receiving partner. Let's look at the short-term effect of emotional abuse. In some cases, the recipients start feeling shamed. There is the feeling of hopelessness. There is a feeling of fear, of confusion, of moodiness, of pains, and difficulty concentrating. And some of the long-term effects of emotional abuse, you have insomnia, chronic pain, social withdrawal, loneliness, guilt, anxiety, mental health outcomes, emotional distress, depression, and so many more. Other forms of emotional abuse could be expressed as throwing objects, kicking a wall, shaking a finger at the victim, or driving recklessly, or destroying what is important to the other partner. You destroy it callously. Or you bang on them, or you scream at them, or you yell at them. These are signs of emotional abuse. People that perpetrate emotional abuse, they are usually hypercritical or judgmental towards you. They ignore boundaries and invade your privacy. They are possessive and controlling people. They are manipulative. They often dismiss you and your feelings. They don't care how you feel. It doesn't really matter for them. As far as they are concerned, they are the ones that are the most important in your life. So all these things is what they want to achieve, to control you, to manipulate you, to make you to agree to what ordinarily you will not agree. Some of them uses outbursts of anger to make you, to agree because you don't want to have this problem. So, okay, let me agree, let there be peace. So, emotional abuse, when you are using words like stupid person, stupid woman, stupid man, fool, idiot, you have no brain. What do you know? Useless man, a nonsense person. When you use derogatory names or phrases on your partner, that is emotional abuse. It is emotional abuse. Some of these partners derive joy in isolating you from family and friends. They make you to be solely dependent on them. In some cases, you are not allowed to work. You are not allowed to have money. You are not allowed to have anything. They are the ones that sit in the seat of power and decide how things are done in the scheme of things. In your family, in that relationship, you are sidelined. You are only seen as suitable to be a sex partner and not to be a part of the decision-making progress in that relationship. Sometimes they are completely ignored. Your opinion does not count. You are not seen, heard, or noticed. Some of them believe that you're only good when it comes time for sleeping. So that is why in any relationship you find yourself in, you should not marry anybody that does not value you. Don't marry anyone that sees you as a piece of property to decorate his or her house with. Don't marry anyone that looks down on you, that does not value you, that doesn't want to help to build you up. Each person that God has created has a particular talent that God has embedded in them, in which your other partner, your husband or your wife, will help you to become the best you are supposed to be. But when that other partner only derives joy in pulling you down, in making sure that you don't become what you are supposed to be in life, avoid that person. Last week, we talked about relationship red flags. Some of you are in those relationships. You are seeing these red flags. You are seeing these things we are talking about. But you say love is blind. No, he does not mean it. You give excuses. There are cases of people dying in relationships on day-to-day basis. These are no longer child play. When the person will punch you as if you are a piece of a furniture, kick you, shove you, slap you, injure you, and you are still there. You still believe that he will change. My dear, most of the time they don't change. It even gets worse when you get married, when you get into that relationship. And that is when the real covering is removed. You now begin to see the extent of that abuse. So if you are in a stage, in just a relationship, not yet a marriage, and you witness some of these things, my dear, it is time you take a leave. It is time you put a stop. Take a break from that relationship. Go somewhere else. Review your life. Review the relationship. Is it worth continuing? Do you want to die in the process of loving a man or a woman? Do you want to be killed? Do you want your life to be shortened? Do you want to become a shell of yourself? If your answer is no, then there is no need continuing with that relationship. Like I will always say, in a relationship, it's always good for the two partners to have a source of income. You have what you are bringing in, he has what he's bringing in. Because so that if he's no longer working, there will be something for you to fall back on. But in a situation where you solely depend on the abusive partner, you have no money, you have no handwork, there is nothing you have, then it's so difficult to break away, because when you want to do that, look at how will I survive? How will I feed? What will I do? Who will I turn to? What will the environment say? What will people say? People will see me as being so and so and so. Sometimes what people will say, all these things are not really important. What is important is your ability to break out. Break out and be alive. And if you're still a single that have not yet found yourself in this kind of a relationship, take your time. Observe who you want to end up as husband and wife with. Look, open your eyes. Does he value achievement? Does he value you as a person? Does he like you? Or are you just a piece of furniture or somebody he likes that will hang on his hand or shoulder and to show off? Does he treat you well when nobody is looking? Is he treating you well when somebody is looking? When you look at all these things, you will see signs. And then if you are a child of God, you want to go into that relationship and you spend time in prayer and pray and ask God for direction, he will show you signs. I pray for you that when he shows you signs, that you will be attentive to observe. You will be obedient to listen, and you will be obedient to bear, and it shall be well with your life. Emotional abuse in a relationship is a no-no. If you are seeing all these signs in that relationship you are in, please take a break and review your life, and the Lord will bless you. If you like our videos, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bells so that you get our videos as they drop.